There is a little talked about niche in real estate investing where people are raking in tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars a month without ever buying a property or getting a real estate license, which means you can get started with as little as $0. I know that might sound too good to be true, but this strategy is called wholesaling. It's legal. I've made tens of thousands of dollars in a few months doing it, and this video is gonna break down the entire process for you. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, you're going to want to stick around. My name is Lily, and this is where I'm documenting my real estate investing journey and bringing you guys along with me. My goal is to make this channel the best place on YouTube for new investors to get free, authentic content about what it's really like trying to reach financial freedom through real estate investing and starting from zero. And all I ask in exchange for that is that you guys turn that like button blue. Also, before we get too deep into the video, just know there's a link in the description to a packet of free resources that will help you get your wholesaling business off the ground. This includes phone scripts for when you're making calls and asking about different properties, as well as an offer sheet template for the terms that you should be including when you're making offers. And then there's also a wholesaling business plan to help you plan out what you're going to do day to day, week to week, month to month to make 2021 your best year yet. Today's video is going to be the ultimate guide, breaking down the entire process of wholesaling, how the different pieces work together, and of course, how you can start raking in 4- and 5-figure checks in 2021. Like many of you, there was a point in my life where I started to get really interested in financial freedom. And for me, it came during my last few years of business school and when I started traveling the world as a member of the Harlem Globetrotters. I was having the time of my life, but I also wanted to learn how to generate passive income, build generational wealth, and really just take my financial freedom to the next level. So my first foray into real estate investing came by house hacking this duplex where I figured out how to put $0 towards my down payment. If you're not familiar with what house hacking is, it's where you purchase a property, ideally a multi-unit property, so that you can live in one unit and rent out the others. I've got an entire playlist for you guys about house hacking and I'll link it in the description below. But shortly after getting that duplex, I realized that I needed a method to continue to invest even if I didn't have tens of thousands of dollars at my disposal to just go outright purchase a property, and that's when wholesaling came into the picture. I actually had no idea what wholesaling was until one of my Harlem Globetrotter teammates explained it to me. Wholesaling is basically being the middleman, finding a distressed property, getting it under contract for one price, and then finding an investor who wants to improve the condition of that property and selling them your contract for another price. And you can do this whether you live in the same city as that distressed property or if you live somewhere across the country or possibly even in a different part of the world by doing something called virtual wholesaling. Within that general overview, there are a lot of pieces, and so here's how we'll break it down. First, we'll talk about how you even find a distressed property. You might have heard of methods like driving for dollars, cold calling, putting out bandit signs. We'll talk about all those different methods, the pros and cons, as well as how much getting started in those areas might cost you. Once you found that distressed property, contacted the homeowner, and determined that they are in fact willing to sell their property, then it's time for you to make an offer. Hopefully it gets accepted, and now you have that property under contract. After that, you'll need to find a cash buyer, and of course, I will give you my best tips on where to look. You'll then assign your cash buyer that contract and then collect your assignment fee or wholesaling check from the title company. And although I'm not a lawyer and this will not be legal advice, I will finish up by sharing what I've learned about how you can do all of this and still make sure you're within your state's legal guidelines. So I hope you've already hit that like button and you're ready to dive in. First up, how the heck do we find a distressed property? In my view, there are 3 types of distress that you can look for. The first is properties with physical damage, the second is properties that are outdated, and the third is properties that are owned by someone who, for whatever reason, is motivated to sell at a discount. A lot of times you'll hear wholesalers talking about that first type of distress. You've got a property that a hoarder was living in, or there's a hole in the roof, or severe foundation issues. These definitely count as distressed properties, but don't forget that distress just means that the owner, for whatever reason, has some motivation to sell the property at less than what pure market value might be. Having physical damage might be one of those reasons, but the same goes for houses like this deal that I worked on a few months ago. It hadn't been updated since the 70s, and it had carpet in the kitchen and in the bathroom. I know, disgusting. Even aside from physical condition or the aesthetics of the property, it'll be useful to also think about the owner's situation when you're looking for distress. Maybe someone owns a rental property in a state that they don't live in and they're tired of dealing with repairs and managing tenants, so they'd be willing to sell the property and get it off their hands. Or maybe someone inherited a property and they'd rather sell it and collect the cash than to turn it into a rental and become a landlord. You've also got situations like divorce and pre-foreclosure and more that might lead to a homeowner wanting to do a quick cash transaction with a wholesaler. There are hundreds, even thousands of properties in your area that fit this criteria, so how do you find them? I'll break down how the different methods work as well as how much they cost, from the ones that are free to the ones that are monthly subscriptions, and hopefully this will help you get an idea of what works best for your situation. One of the most common ways for beginners to start finding deals is by driving for dollars. This is how I spent my very first day wholesaling, and if you want to see how that day went, you can check out this video right here, which is episode 1 in a series that I did documenting every single step to getting my first wholesale deal. What you're looking for when driving for dollars are signs of distress, and in this case, usually physical distress. So this means properties that just don't seem well taken care of and might be vacant, meaning they have high grass, the mailbox is full, the windows are boarded up, things like that. I like to use a software called PropStream when I'm out driving. They have a mobile driving for dollars app, which will let you log the information about the properties that you see, as well as show you where you've already driven so you're not backtracking and wasting times going down the same street multiple times. You can also make notes about particular properties so that you can look back on them later. Another way to find distressed properties is to pull a list of homes that fit a certain criteria. The criteria you choose is completely up to you, but you want to think of a situation where a homeowner who meets that criteria might be willing to sell their house. For example, in addition to their Driving for Dollars app, PropStream also lets you pull these lists. And so you might do something like vacant homes that are not for sale, have been owned for 10 years or more, and the owner lives out of state. You can imagine that a homeowner who meets that criteria might be willing to sell that property. A third way that you could find properties, and this is one that I do most often, is to look for homeowners who are already trying to sell a distressed property. You can do this through free sites like Redfin or Zillow, as well as look for homeowners who are selling without the use of a real estate agent by using Zillow's for sale by owner feature, Craigslist, or Facebook Marketplace. And then finally, rather than searching for homeowners who have distressed properties, you could try to get those homeowners to call you. So you can do things like put out bandit signs, which are those signs you see on the side of the road that say, "We buy houses for cash." You could run Google ads, you could make Craigslist posts, things like that. I won't talk too much about bandit signs, but it's good to look up your state regulations because a lot of times those bandit signs are illegal. So, the cops or whoever's working for the city might take them down. And if they could figure out who you are, they might give you a fine. So those are the most common ways of finding distressed properties. Let's break down the costs of each. To start with the least expensive, looking for sellers on places like for sale by owner listings, Craigslist, and Facebook is going to be the cheapest, but those methods are also open to the public. And so with the already limited amount of people using those methods to sell their house, you're also going to be competing with other wholesalers and investors who are looking there as well. Next, you've got those bandit signs that we talked about, and how much that costs you really depends on what you want them to look like. Some people just take a Sharpie to a piece of cardboard, or some people go to Home Depot or order them online. So that really depends, but anywhere between $5 and $20 per sign is probably what you're looking at. And then you've got to think about the staples or tape or whatever you're going to use to put them out. And it'll probably cost you some early mornings because most people get up really early in the morning, like 4 a.m. to go put them out before, there's a lot of traffic on the roads and people might see them. After that, you've got the homeowners who are looking to sell on Redfin or Zillow. These sites are free to the public, so you'll be able to find the properties for free, but the homeowners there are usually represented by a real estate agent, and to make an offer on that property, the agent is usually going to ask you for a proof of funds letter. Now, a proof of funds letter doesn't actually mean that you have all of the funds needed, because that's part of the point of wholesaling is that you don't have those funds, but the purpose of the proof of funds is to say that you have access to those funds. You'll have to hustle a little bit to get a proof of funds letter, and getting one for free is something that I teach in my 5-day beginners boot camp. But if you want to just go ahead and buy your proof of funds letter, it'll cost you somewhere between $20 and $200. But do that at your own risk, because there's no guarantee that a real estate agent will accept your proof of funds letter if it looks shady or if they think that you're shady. So watch this video right here where I talk a little bit more about proof of funds. Next, we've got driving for dollars, and this is a great cheap way to get started, but it does require you to have a car or know someone who has a car and is willing to go out with you, as well as the cost of gas depending on how long you're going to drive around and log property. Driving for dollars is also really nice because no one is going to have the exact same list of properties as you, because you're building it yourself as you drive around. Whereas if you just go online and pull a list of properties with a certain criteria, you can imagine that someone else is also going to think of that same criteria, and so therefore be trying to contact the same homeowners as you are. So that is one thing that I do really like about driving for dollars, and the cost is more so going to depend on how you decide to contact the homeowners of the properties you find. So let's talk about that now. So regardless of where you get your list of properties from, driving for dollars, you just build one on a site like PropStream, you'll have to pay for the contact information of those homeowners. And so if you use a site like PropStream, there's a monthly membership of $97 a month, although they do have a free 7-day trial, and I have a link for you guys to get that free 7-day trial in the description below. If you use a website like ListSource, you have an option to do the monthly fee, or you can do something like 18 cents per property that you want information for, but they do have a $50 minimum per order. The give and take here seems to be that the sites that don't have a monthly fee charge you a little bit more per lead and require you to, have a minimum so that they're hitting at least a certain amount per order that they're giving, versus a site like PropStream that has a monthly fee. They're going to have a little bit less of a charge per lead. Theirs is around 12 cents for phone numbers and email addresses, and they don't have a minimum of how many you can order at one time. Aside from calling or emailing those homeowners, you could also decide to send a text message blast to everyone on your list at the same time. With a site like Batch Leads, you'll be paying $69 a month, and that will get you 1,000 text messages a day. You can also do something like RVM, which stands for ringless voicemail. And how I believe this works is that the system actually calls the phone number 2 times at the exact same time, which jams the phone line, and so the phone doesn't actually ring, it jumps you straight to voicemail, so that you can pre-record a voicemail telling the homeowner that you're interested in making a cash offer for their property. You can send that ringless voicemail out to multiple people at one time. They all get the voice message, and then the ones that were interested will call you back. So you could do hundreds or thousands of these per day, and they'll cost you around 10 cents each. If none of these methods appeal to you, you also have the option of sending a physical postcard to the homeowner in the mail. And if you use a site like PropStream, you could get them for around 40 cents each, in addition to the $97 a month. Or you could literally just get some postcards and write out the information by hand and send them in the mail, and it'll cost you the price of the postage. But obviously, you can only do as many as you are able to physically write in the amount of time that you allot to it. And wholesaling is a numbers game. The more people you contact, the more people you'll find that are interested in selling their house, the more offers you make, the more that will get accepted, and the more deals you will do. So depending on how much you want to invest in your business, there is a benefit to paying a small amount per each method of contacting the homeowner versus sitting there and cold calling yourself or writing out the postcards yourself. It just depends how much money you want to spend and how much time you want to dedicate to contacting how many homeowners. For example, if you're really good at building rapport on the phone, or you just have a lot of time, or you can pay virtual assistants to make calls for you, it might be the best method for you to go ahead and pay for phone numbers and cold call homeowners to start having that conversation about selling their house. But if you want to contact hundreds or even thousands of homeowners today, you might do something like ringless voicemails, text messages, or send out postcards. And again, if you decide to go after those properties that are on market already for sale, you'll usually need to contact the real estate agent rather than the homeowner, which is free, but you'll need to have that proof of funds letter. If you guys want me to make a tier ranking video about all of these different marketing strategies and which ones I think are the best, let's see if we can get this video to 2,000 likes. So no matter how you choose to contact these homeowners, as you do so, the list of properties you're juggling is going to grow and you're going to need a place to keep everything organized. Because I target on-market, already for sale properties, these deals move much quicker than if I was targeting off-market properties and mailing postcards or doing something like that. So because my deals are moving so quickly, I'm able to use a free site called Notion, where I created a database to keep track of all my property info for the properties that I'm dealing with at the moment. It allows me to log real estate agent info, the property details, different documents that I want to keep track of, as well as what I offered, when I need to follow up, and how many offers that I'm making every single day. There are hours of tutorials here on YouTube that I went through to learn how to make this Notion database, and so you can definitely do the same. If you want to use my exact Notion database, it's a bonus that I include when you sign up for my 5-day beginners bootcamp. If you're choosing to target off-market properties, you'll probably need something a bit more robust than Notion, and in this case, you would want to get a CRM, which is a dedicated system that helps you keep everything organized. Some CRMs will even send follow-up emails or messages to homeowners and maybe even make RVM phone calls for you. There are a lot of different CRMs out there, and because I don't use them in my business, I cannot give you my personal recommendation. But from the research I've done, it seems like depending how many deals you want to keep track of, how many people are on your team, and what features you want your CRM to do for you, you could be paying somewhere between $20 to $200 a month. If you're interested in this on-market versus off-market thing, I'm going to be making a dedicated deep dive comparing the two, so make sure you join the notification squad. But for now, here are my thoughts. With on-market, there are just fewer moving parts. You don't have to go out and find distressed properties, nor do you have to spend money to contact those homeowners, so that's definitely a plus. But on the other hand, I think with on-market deals, you have to be better at building rapport with real estate agents, analyzing deals quickly, as well as providing proof of funds and earnest money, which we'll talk about more in a moment. Another plus though is that these type of deals tend to move much quicker. For me, I got my first deal after 6 weeks of wholesaling. And if you want to see the 8-episode series that I posted during those 6 weeks, I'll link the playlist in the description below. And when I did get my first deal, it actually only took about 4 days from the time that I found the deal, signed the contract with the homeowner, to the time that I assigned it to my cash buyer and made my check. So if you want to get your first check quickly, on-market might be the fastest way to do so. As for off-market deals, it might be a little bit more difficult to get started because you will need some money to drive for dollars and skip trace those homeowners' phone numbers or send postcards or do ringless voicemail or something like that. On the other hand, you're not working with a professional real estate agent, and so you'll usually need less earnest money and you probably won't need a proof of funds letter at all. On the flip side, these deals can take a lot longer. It can be weeks or months before a homeowner that you contacted even gets back to you and is ready to sell their house. But on the other hand, I've heard that people who wholesale off market make much bigger checks than people who wholesale on market. So do you want smaller checks possibly more often, or do you want bigger checks that might take you a little bit longer to get? That balance is up to you. Now, whatever method you choose, your job is to contact the homeowner or the real estate agent and make them a cash offer. The amazing thing about wholesaling is you don't actually have to have that cash to make the offer and go under contract. It's quite a big debate in the wholesaling community of if you should tell the homeowner or the real estate agent about this. Should you tell them that you don't have the cash and you're going to be assigning the contract to one of your cash buyers, or does it not matter because at the end of the day, the homeowner's gonna get the cash that you promised them in the contract? Now, you know what they say about opinions. Everybody has them, and of course I have my own, which I talk about in this video right here, but basically, I choose to disclose to the real estate agents that I'm working with that I am going to assign the contract to one of my investing partners. This just makes things easier to build a relationship with them. It makes me feel better about being honest, and it makes it simpler down the road when I need to get my cash buyers into the property so that they can see it and decide if they want to purchase it. So those are my brief thoughts on disclosing if you're a wholesaler. But once you make the offer and it's accepted, it's common that you put down something called earnest money, which is basically your good faith deposit that goes along with the contract and basically says, I'm going to, put my money where my mouth is and do what I said I'm going to do in this contract. With off-market deals, people put down as little as $1 or whatever you and the seller agree on. And with on-market deals, real estate agents are going to be expecting somewhere between $500 to $1,000 depending on the purchase price of the property. And there are ways to get around putting down earnest money and to have your cash buyer instead put that earnest money down for for you. So if you want to learn more about earnest money, how to make sure you don't lose it, all of that good stuff, check out this deep dive that I did right here. And to take a quick step back, if you're not sure how much to offer to buy the property for in the first place, you're going to want to determine a few things. The first is how much that property could sell for if it was no longer in distressed condition, and this is called your ARV, or your after repair value. Then you'll want to know how much it's going to cost to fix it up, and that's your rehab budget. And finally, you want to know what wholesaling formula buyers are using in your market, although the typical wholesaling formula is to take your ARV, multiply it by 70 or 75%, subtract your rehab budget, subtract your wholesaling fee, which can be whatever you decide it's going to be, and then make that offer price to the seller. So once you and the seller agree on that price, you sign a purchase and sale agreement, and now you have something called equitable interest in that property. This basically means that you don't own that property because you haven't gone to the title company and paid for it, but you do own the right to purchase it while your contract is in effect. What that means for you as a wholesaler is you can now go find your cash buyer and sell your equitable interest to them. Let's imagine that you use my link in the description to get a free 7-day trial of PropStream. Then you go driving for dollars, you get a list of all the properties in your area that you think might be vacant or distressed, and you pay 12 cents each to get the phone numbers of all of those homeowners. After calling them up, building rapport, and figuring out what they want for their properties, you find someone who's willing to sell their house for $50,000. You would go under contract for that price, and if it was actually a good deal based on the numbers, the condition of the property, and the area, you find a cash buyer who's willing to buy that deal from you for $60,000. Like I said, if you've got a good deal, it's a very simple way to make $10,000. So how do you find these cash buyers? Some people recommend that you go out and try to build your cash buyers list first by getting the contact information of local buyers in your area, but my recommendation is that you actually get good at finding great deals first. If you have a great deal, the buyers will buy it, and it'll be very easy to find them. A really great, simple way to do so is to join your local Facebook investing group where these wholesalers and investors are already connecting. You can figure out what works in your market and get better at making offers and building rapport and searching for properties. And also, most groups allow that when you have a deal, you can post it right there in the group, and buyers that are interested will comment their information below so that you can contact them. I've also got a few other strategies for finding cash buyers, and you can find them in this deep dive right here. After finding a cash buyer, you'll send them an assignment contract, which assigns them your rights to your original contract with the seller, except at a higher price. Depending on what state you're in, you'll either send all contracts and earnest money to a title company or to an attorney's office to handle the transaction, and once your cash buyer actually closes and buys the property, they will disperse you your assignment fee. Wholesaling is not easy, but it is simple. And in the first 3 months of wholesaling, I've been able to do over $20,000 worth of deals. And I've actually been documenting the entire process from step 0 here on my YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it yet, you can check out this 8-episode series that started off with my first day of driving for dollars, to cold calling and, getting cussed out basically, to wanting to quit, and finishing up with getting my very first check. But before we finish, let's talk about the legality of all of this. In the last few months, there have been certain cities and states that are passing new regulations against wholesaling without a real estate license. At the time of this recording, most states do not require you to have a real estate license to assign your equitable interest in a contract to someone else for a fee. But the state of Illinois does have a law saying that you can only do one deal per year if you're not a real estate agent. And in the city of Philadelphia, they just passed a law saying that you have to pay $200 a year to get a wholesaler's license. I've got another deep dive video for you guys right here that goes into the ins and outs of all of these laws that are being passed, and I do think that there are more coming. So if you feel like wholesaling could be your path to financial freedom, I encourage you to do it in a way where you're looking at it like building a business. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, and people who are doing it wrong, lying to sellers, and just doing things without good ethics are the reason, I believe, that these laws are being passed. The goal isn't to just do one deal. The goal is to consistently do deals every single month, and that can get you into a place where you decide maybe you want to keep wholesaling, or maybe you want to reinvest some of your funds to keep properties as rentals, to get into flipping, or whatever other type of investing that you choose to do. When you think about doing $5,000 to $20,000 deals every single month, it makes much more sense to pay $200 for a wholesaler's license if you're in Philadelphia, or to invest in getting a real estate license if wholesaling without one becomes illegal in your state. It also makes more sense to invest in some of those marketing methods, like paying $97 a month for PropStream, or paying to get ringless voicemails to all of the hundreds or thousands of property owners you want to contact every month. So don't forget to check out the free resources that I have linked in the description if you are ready to get started on your wholesaling journey. You should also follow me on Instagram over at LiLiInvest, as I'm posting every single day about how this journey is going for me. I post here on YouTube 3 times a week, so don't forget to turn on notifications, and I'll catch you in the next video.